apparently pretty influential back in Washington, and they found out what was going on. They said, I want you to get our son out of there right now for a proper burial. Well, that's what caused the whole mission. And so first thing, kind of funny part of the story is picking up an object on the end of a line and reeled in the airplane. It has to be, that object has to be pretty streamlined airflow-wise. Otherwise, when it gets close to the airplane, it starts working up. And we found that out just using dummies. We had actually, even on practice mission, that dummy had struck the tail of the B-17. And that's kind of serious stuff. So anyway, they said, get him down and thaw him out and get him in the regular suit with the harness on it, which is nothing but a snowsuit with a parachute harness built on it. And they got him down in the kitchen and tried to thaw him out, and that must have been very pleasant. They finally called back and says, no, we can't thaw him out because he starts coming apart when we try to straighten him out. So at that time, we're sitting in Point Barrow, and we said, can you get him in the drop bag, which is basically a milk kind of like a milk bottle shaped bag. And we tried the smallest guy on our pickup crew to get him to bend over double and get in that bag, and we just couldn't do it. But we were there at a loss at that time. So we were trying to figure out what to do, and they called back from the ice island and says, we got George in the bag. So anyway, we launched right shortly after that, and being the summertime up there, it was a 15-hour round trip. It was about 80 miles south of the North Pole, and that ice pack shifts constantly. And the navigation, we have a professional navigator from Pan Am on board, and we couldn't find him. They had a beacon out. We couldn't pick up the beacon. We weren't close enough to him. And then the ice fog rolled in. So the ice fog was about 200 feet above the surface of the ice, and that's way too low for a pickup, even if we could have seen him. So we went back, and our old B-17 to get pretty tired by that time. And with those booms on it, it doesn't travel very fast. Anyway, we sat there in Barrow until about 2 more days, and they called and said that the sky is clear. And we went right now. And about 8 hours later, we picked up their transmission for the beacon signal, and they said it's clear now, but the ice fog is coming in from the north. And all of a sudden, somebody says, "There's the balloon." And there it was, sticking up above the fog.
Wow.
Sticking above the fog, and the pilot said, "Stand by for pickup." We made one circle and picked up Old George, and that's not his real name, but I was asked not to mention his real name.
Sure.
And anyway, we got Old George up in the tail of the airplane. I was the tail operator at the time.
So you had to operate the retrieval.
Yeah. Jerry Daniels, well, there's several of us on the crew, the guy at the nose and the pilots, the navigator, and 2 guys in the belly of the airplane, because that's where we're bringing them in, is through the belly. Before that, that's where the winch is also. And we also had Fulton on board. I don't know why those guys wanted to go on that, because we were so overweight with fuel anyway. But anyway, they went, and we got old George in the airplane, and just as we made contact with the line, with the rope, we had pre-planned, we had 2 gallons of Oso Negro gin. That's about as big as rock guts you can find. And we bought it in Mexico, packaged it up in little packages, and just as they said, contact, and I threw out those 2 little parachutes with gin in them, 2 gallons of gin. And the guys on the ground, they said it was like God came down from heaven. He says, "There's old George sitting there that we've had not much fun with lately," and then he just slowly disappears into the cloud, and the shadow of an airplane comes over, and then out of the cloud comes these 2 parachutes with gin. And Boy, we were listening to the radio on the HF radio all the way back to Barrow that night, and the story got better and better and better. And those guys were sitting there sipping on that gin.
That's a great story. So that pickup was different. There was two pickups, the one where,
Yes.
where you got the Soviet ice station stuff,
Yeah.
and then this was later.
Yeah, and Cold Feet was classified for many years.
This wasn't Cold Feet, this was something else.
This was something
Yeah,
else.
Cold Feet was the earlier one, okay.
Yeah, Cold Feet was the early one, yeah.
Yeah.
Just about the same crew,
Yeah,
both of them.
so you got pretty good with the Fulton Skyhook.
Yeah, we got pretty good, but we didn't, you know, the military started off with this thing, and they were using 130s, which is the ideal airplane for it. But for some reason or other, they just lost interest in it for something like that. And then the Navy started using P2Vs, Neptunes, but they didn't have one available for the either project in time. They wanted it done now. Both things were immediate future. I mean, we had to do them right away,
Yeah.
because of the political ramifications and everything else. So they end up with the first successful pickups being made with the B-17, and of course, soon thereafter, I think maybe it lasted a couple more years, the B-17, the military got interested again and started using the C-130s.
Well, were you involved with that pickup they did for the James Bond movie?
No, I was not. Was
that the same aircraft?
Out of that. That was with the B-17 also,
Yeah.
but it was a different crew I went on to. That's when I was flying full-time.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah.
That's a great story. I always wondered about the navigation. To me, that would have been tough, really tough.
Well, it was all celestial, you know, that was long before GPS or even Loran was around. And this guy was a professional navigator with Pan Am, but up there, the compass hardly means anything to you.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the magnetic field is so close that it's very, very hard to stay. And when he wanted to get a celestial reading, you had to hold the airplane absolutely still. I mean, it's got to be, you can't be wavering around or bouncing or nothing, or he can't get a good shot.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was pretty darn tough navigating, I'm sure.
You never took part in the rodeos?
No, I didn't ride the rodeos, no.
Yeah.
Those guys, several of them did down at Marana there. And the boss finally said, he said, the next one of you guys that goes one of the rodeos can hit the road. I'm tired of nursing you guys all back to health. So,
Yeah.
you know.
So after you, so what happened next? After you got done with that kind of flying, you retired out of that? Or?
No, I went to work. Intermountain got their 121 certificate at that time. And
Now what's the 121 certificate?
121 is basically commercial air transport, authorization to haul people and cargo and get paid for it, which then you come under very close scrutiny of the FAA. You've got to take check rides all the time, and you've got to keep the airplanes in top shape, and you've got certain positions that have to be filled within the company that have very much qualified people, like inspectors and mechanics and stuff like that, as well as management and pilots. So that's pretty much what I did in the wintertime, was fly point to point on. By that time we'd acquired a DC-6, and I think that was in 1968 we got that. And the same year we got the Twin Otters. And I flew co-pilot on DC-6 for a couple of years, and I made captain in the 46. And then I was one of the first 3 guys that were sent to de Havilland School for the Twin Otter training. And we ended up buying 4 or 5 of those Twin Otters, not all at one time, but more or less became chief pilot of the Twin Otter and Porter types and Twin Beach types that were still around.
And were those used with the jumpers too?
Pardon?
Were those used by the jumpers? The
Yeah.
Smokejumper program?
Yeah, the jumper program started in 1968 with a pre-production model Twin Otter that we had leased, and it was very successful. Very successful. They loved it. And then And then they have one was supplying a lot of commuters with de Havillands. It's a 19-passenger airplane. It worked just fine for like in the LA basin and stuff like that. And then they got into the 300 series airplanes, which were quite a lot more powerful and capable than the 100, 200 series.
Well, that relationship of a private contractor to the Forest Service for air operations, can you take us through that? How does that work?
Well,
You bid every year, or what